a kind of friend, okay? This is the second part that I want to talk to you. Now, there is an unspoken rule, if you want to think about it this way, that exists between friendships. And it has to do with loyalty and with bond, okay? And that's what friendships is. What is at the root of friendship is this loyalty and this bond to one another, which is one of the things that we find in the word kindness is loyalty, okay? And love. Those are the two things that we find there. That's why you often hear it called loving kindness, okay? But it's also always paired together with this idea of loyalty, of bond, even of mercy, okay? All these ideas kind of go together. But let me give you an example of this friendship, of this unspoken rule, okay? You've heard of some of these terms. For example, you've heard of the term, blood is thicker than water, right? Because the idea of friendship often is depicted as a brotherhood of sorts, okay? And so there comes that idea. You also have the best friend, right? We call people my best friend. Okay, we also say things, you've heard this one, we're going to ride or die together, okay? Another one is, this is my brother from another mother. You've heard that one, I'm sure. Then there's the Three Musketeers, all for one and all for one, right? And then there's the old American, e pluribus unum, right? Out of many one. And then, another funny one, two peas in a pod. Heard of that one? All right, so you got all these ideas, these unwritten rules, these terms that we use. And yes, they sound silly, but they say something about the kind of relationship you have with people. Okay? This is why when friendships go bad, they really hurt people. Okay? Because there's a bond and a loyalty that grows in a friendship. Okay? And we do things to symbolize these things. I know when we were kids and we would say we're gonna be friends. One weird thing that people used to do back in the day. I don't know if they do this anymore. Probably not with COVID. But they used to spit in their hand and shake hands. You ever seen that? Or in some instances, I knew people that would cut their finger and join their blood. So there was a symbol of loyalty that wasn't exist there. You also have the old pinky promise. You've seen that one. Okay. And then you had the old cross my heart, hope to die oath that many of us said maybe as children. And so we symbolize these things. Okay. These things are symbolized in different ways in culture. And so there is this rule, but it's an unspoken rule. Nobody really talks about it, but we know that it's there. And when it's real, this loyalty and this bond that exists between friends is undergirded by love. And in its truest application, it is under no obligation. Meaning, if you're my friend and if you're my true friend and I help you, even after maybe you said something that upset me and I help you anyways, and you say, man, why did you help me? Because you're my friend. There is no obligation. This idea is seen mostly in God. We see it in the Old Testament. When you talk, I've chosen my people. I've chosen you because I love you, not because you did anything for me. Okay, so this idea is throughout Scripture. Well, Job's perception of his friends was that they lacked kindness, and by what he means when he says this is, you lack loyalty. I thought you were my friends. And so for him, the way they've talked to him, and life is in this case, the way that they're treating him, and I don't know, it's hard to say, right? Because we're looking at here, and in verse 15, he says, my brothers. Say, man, he's talking to all of them, but only Eliphaz that says something. So the only thing that I can imagine is that the other two friends, Bildad and Zophar, they're just shaking their head, just agreeing with everything that Eliphaz is saying. Yeah, that's right. Right? You've seen those people, right? You got the main guy talking, everybody's behind them like, yep, that's right, Job, listen up. And nobody's sticking up for Job. And Job saying, wait, hold on, I thought y'all were my friends. And so we have Job perceiving this attack, and we could even say it's real to some extent. Because we've talked about how often Eliphaz would say something but wasn't really thinking things through. He was trying to be a comfort to Job, but he ended up being a sorry comforter. Okay, we see this later on. Okay, so this unkindness has driven Job into a further despair. And that's part of the problem. You know, you've heard the term, don't kick a man when he's down. But often we do that. Why? Because it's easy to kick a man when he's down. He's already down there. Okay? Well, not only has it driven Job into further despair, it has revealed Eliphaz's diminished fear of God. And by extension, the friend's diminished fear of God. And this is why he says what he says. Listen, for the despairing man, there should be kindness from his friend, so that he, the friend, does not forsake the fear of the Almighty. How do you stay in reverence to God? You live out the kind of kindness that he's asked you to live out. And so this is something that goes together. And so part of God's love, when you share your love with others, part of how that is shown is through your compassion. In fact, we won't go there now because we don't have the time, but if you go to Psalm 103, verse 4, you see there that it talks about loving kindness and compassion. It's talking about God in that sense. But still, you see this idea that out of loving kindness comes compassion and mercy, okay? Well, love and loving kindness is a bonding kind of thing. It's a loyalty idea. Because think about this. Jesus says to his disciples, okay, if you want to be my friend, and I'm paraphrasing here, then you have to obey me. Okay? Or if you obey me, then you're my friend. Right? But Jesus, we disobey him all the time. He never stops being our friend. He's always our friend. He doesn't stop just because you disobeyed. He doesn't turn his back on you just because you disobeyed. He is loyal to his love towards his people. And this is something that we see all throughout the Old Testament as well. And so this is an idea that must have existed in the mind of Job and of his friends. And so he's telling them, hey, if you're not being compassionate with me, if you're not being kind with me, you must not fear God. So we have here then Eliphaz's kindness flowing from knowledge and not love.